Okay, guys. Right, so I'm going to make a start. Obviously, anybody who is a couple of minutes late, that's no problem. I'm sure to get the gist of it fairly quickly. Yeah, welcome to the Firewall webinar that me, Chad, and Craig are going to be hosting. Just for everybody to understand a little bit about why this has been built this way is because here at Zedsphere, we are a cloud distributor of, as most of you know. One of the main questions that I get asked quite regularly in 2019 last year was all about the firewall arena. And it seems there's a lot of misinterpretations, misjudgments, and also people struggling a lot to get what they want to out of their MSP business, especially with firewalls, because they see it as a revenue stream, but they quite struggle to get where they want to achieve. So just so you're all aware, we have got Chad from Untangle, who is a technical specialist at Untangle involved. And we have also got Craig, who is one of our well-established partners on Zedsphere. He's from OneFix Limited, and OneFix Limited has been around for quite a few years, and Craig is one of the most experienced people that we know who are absolutely smashing firewalls out of the park. And yeah, exactly, mate. And we've seen you obviously have the ability to turn quite a small amount of licenses into quite a considerable amount in a very short time. And we know you've got a lot of little bits of information that you can help obviously have other people pass that on to other people and help them promote this into their own networking channel. Okay, so between us three, we're all going to obviously have a little bit of a bounce off and be able to help each other out and to see exactly what our customers are saying. We have done a survey for everybody who has accepted the invitation. As you know, there are two webinars which are exactly the same. The first one's today now, and the second one's on Tuesday. And between both of them, we've received 61 customer survey completions, which are all to do with firewalls. And it's a collection of all the little things that I've been asked throughout the year of last year. And we'll be sharing them with you and obviously hoping to shed a little bit of light onto exactly how everybody has little objections, challenges, anything that you have that you want to say, that's absolutely fine. Just let me know and we can ask. We are going to open the opportunity up for you to allow questions. As there is quite a lot of people attending this, we're going to ask you that there is a chat section in your Zoom. If you have any questions at all regarding what we're going through, or if you want anything answered, just pop it in the chat, and then what we can do is we will collect that information and we'll let you know as and when. Okay, and obviously we'll be able to bounce off each other, like I said. Now, just so you know, as there are a lot of people involved, we do have a few house rules that we would like you to stick to. So the first one is the most obvious. Everyone's going to be muted. Purely for audio quality. We've seen it before in the past where it's been a nightmare because someone has got a lawnmower on in the background or something like that. Not that many lawnmowers are out in February at the moment in Britain, but you know what I mean. We're also, like I said, just revisiting the fact that any questions that you have, any objections that you've come up against and you didn't know how to get past, just let us know and we can answer that as and when. And if you have any commitments or if you want to join in, just stick your hand up, and if we've got time, we can obviously introduce you and see exactly how we can help. Okay, so of the survey, like I said, we had 61 completed surveys in. There was a few different questions in there, and one of the things that we wanted to ask very considerably is to do with the actual how people offer firewalls at the moment. And what I found is it's really, really alarming that there is a lot of MSPs out there who don't actually offer any firewall solution at all. That might be because of lack of confidence, it might be because of lack of knowledge, or it might be because they've had a previous experience which has gone really badly. Now, Craig, obviously you're on the ground running. You've been doing firewalls for a little while. Does that stat shock you that there's still people out there who's fairly afraid to take that leap and to make this a success?
No, I mean that kind of looks where I thought things might be, because again, when we were sort of a slightly earlier stage of our business, we were I mean, we're still not super duper networking experts. I mean, I think like most MSPs, we're kind of a good team of generalists, so we've got really good general skills across all the clients that we manage.
Yeah.
Firewalls are one of those things that I think we were quite afraid of at the time, actually. So, we would take on a client, we'd either inherit what they had in their stack and we'd manage that, or probably not manage it very well because we weren't that familiar with it.
Yeah.
Or, if someone needed something, we'd kind of go to market and see what fitted the bill. So I'm not surprised. And actually, on that stack at the moment, I was quite surprised when I looked at it, actually, that we're part of the smallest part of that, actually. So we offer our firewall at the moment as a standalone service. We don't actually, yeah, we do. We don't. We have some security focused kind of plans, and we wrap things in. But actually, with firewalls, we find that personally, I find it quite difficult to build it into the way our product plans work, because it's kind of finding the right fit for different users. Untangle has a fantastic range of different subscriptions and devices that will fit different company sizes. But for us to kind of roll that into a set per user plan, we felt when we revisited our plans, actually, we were better to kind of consultatively offer that, because we can kind of offer much more around that and sell a lot more of the benefits for the people that need it. Because we still, our kind of clients, we have a range. So our market's kind of 5 seats to around about 150 seats. So some of the 5-seat businesses actually, in all honesty, up until recently, they probably didn't need something like Untangle. It probably would have been overkill for them. Now we're starting to find that with the growth of all the different kind of attacks and threat actors that are out there, we're now starting to recommend it literally for everybody, especially now there's the appliances available, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a bit. So we're part of the standalone service at the moment. But yeah, I'm not surprised that people don't offer it, and that's that's the biggest percentage, and I think that will change, and I think it should change.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting as well, because there are so many different ways that people utilize firewalls. Some obviously more successful than others, but it seems to be a little bit of a try and test situation. Now, obviously, Chad, like from your point of view, do you see any trends at all which people are seeing? Like, is this fitting the bill? Obviously, you're based in the States, where Untangle and firewalls are huge.
Sure.
Like, is this? Would you say this? Does this go on par exactly for us in the UK to the States, or is it slightly different?
I think it may be a little different here. And we work, like Craig said, we work pretty small businesses. So I think the biggest change, I'm in my 5th year here at Untangle. Untangle's in its 17th year, though. Over the course of our time, the biggest change to me is that small business owners here in the States are finally getting scared enough.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't like to use fear to sell this kind of thing, but man, it's scary. It's 2020,
Yeah.
And they're finally starting to realize that even an insurance agent with 3 employees can be a target for someone.
Yeah.
If you have a public IP, you're a target now. That's unfortunate, sad but true. So yeah, I think the consensus over here is being scared, because the media here tells us a lot of stuff about all these weird exploits and hacks, and it's an election year and people are kind of wary of cybersecurity just in general nowadays.
Yeah.
So just in the last 3 or 4 years, things have changed a lot here in the States. We've had some really, really, really massive data breaches here in the States. You guys have had a few too. We, however, don't have data protection regulations.
Yeah.
So California does now. California started that in this year, here in January.
Yeah.
So I hope that changes things. We're all fingers crossed for California to push that as far into our telecoms as we can. Yes. But I think there's been kind of a sea change here in the States over the last 3 or 4 years, because of the glut of media stories about hackers and exploits in Russia and China. And we have a lot of users who use Untangle at home, and those are honestly some of the most scared individuals I talk to.
Yeah.
Because it's getting to the point where they think they're a target too, and some of them are, but not many people with 5 devices in their homes are a target for a hacker. Just FYI.
No, of course, mate.
Yeah. But yeah, it's times have changed pretty drastically over the last 5 years.
It's interesting.
It's time to have something like this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that as well, because one of the things that really stood out for me in this customer service, next slide, and it's the way people are actually deploying firewalls. Like, I thought, gone are the days where people want something on your premises.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And obviously, out of 61 different surveys, this was the most alarming thought for me. And it seems that there are still customers, actually the majority of customers and MSPs and IT service providers out there are still really happy to have something on the premises that they can see and know that it's working, ticking along, it looks nice. So Craig, obviously, like I said, this is something that you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
Like, do you feel that customers are literally biting your hand off to get, are they expecting like something in their office to come with what you're offering, or is it a bit of a mixed bag for you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So our typically, I mean, we are still involved with physical servers. I don't think they're going to go away anytime soon. We do a lot of cloud-based stuff, either private cloud or public cloud. But again, for the kind of the offices that we're working with and the physical the physical devices we're deploying, we are still deploying primarily hardware. I think we've got 1 or 2 clients where we're running Untangle on VM, but it's typically hardware. There's kind of 2 reasons from our point of view for that. One, legacy going back a little while is that, up until probably the last, I don't know, 2-3 years maybe, Untangle wasn't primarily supported in a virtual environment. I think there was some support within VMware. Maybe there wasn't in Hyper-V, but yeah, that's moved on a long way now. So we're just used to kind of the way we work from that point of view. So we put it out there as hardware. But also for certain clients that we look after, actually, as much as we've got, we use virtual machines for their actual server infrastructure. So we put some physical hardware in, we're running VMs. There's a sense of, I guess from our point of view, there's a sense of kind of robustness about the fact that we know that if we've got a little physical appliance there running the firewall, that it's it's standalone from the point of view that a lot of our clients, the VM infrastructure is great, but it's not, we haven't got many that are running, huge SANs and decent clustering and failover. If they've got clustering and failover on a SAN, great. Let's put Untangle in there because it's going to be nice and resilient. Not that I don't trust the VM environment. Obviously, that's not the right answer. But there's just something. I mean, certainly for us, the game changer in terms of deploying Untangle has been since the appliances have come along, and you guys have now stocking them in the UK, because they're just great little bits of kit in terms of their uptime, their reliability. Prior to that, what we used to do is we would actually build out Untangle servers. So we would actually, our typical deployment, we probably got half of our clients running on HP micro servers, which were fantastic little firewall machines. They're super powerful. So I mean, they handle all the traffic we can throw at them from even the biggest sites. But actually, now we don't even do that. We just build straight with the appliances that you sell. So that's the beauty of Untangle. When you compare it to something like a traditional firewall, you've got a physical appliance. You haven't got much option, I guess, with things like Cisco. You can use a virtual firewall. With Untangle, you have a choice. Do you buy an appliance? Do you roll it onto your own hardware? Do you put it on a VM? Do you, reconfigure a device that's on site? So it's so flexible. And that's a real win.
I think that's one of the main points you said, is that the fact that it's transitioning from the old school legacy firewalls to obviously anything next gen. It just adds that extra element to the choices that you have. And the choices mainly that you can give to your customers, because a lot of the power that comes into play is that you can obviously pass this information on your customer and they can pick the best solution for themselves. Absolutely. So gone are the days where you're forcing anybody down into a corner where they don't know or don't understand what they're actually signing up to. The awareness of customers now, like you said, Chad, before, like, it's so much higher. There's a lot more fear around in the air. Sure. And the word firewall 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it only really was understood by anybody in the IT industry. Whereas now there's so many people, especially with myself as well, like we're quite involved with Untangle. But the amount of people, but the amount of people that I speak to on a daily basis who also use this at home, because they're scared and petrified that their kid's looking at something that they shouldn't be. Exactly. And that's just doesn't just go for Untangle; it goes for the whole heap of next generation firewalls. Like, do you feel like it's the fear that's drawn everything together more closely, Chad, or do you think it's a lot more than that?
You touched on something pretty big, though, too, is home users, parents. I'm not a parent, but if I had a teenager and they had an iPad and an iPhone and all that stuff, I'd be pretty paranoid.
Yeah.
You know, there's 100 new nefarious URLs created every day. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So I think actually the home market is maybe what's part of this chart we're looking at right here, because those people don't use virtual machines or cloud infrastructure whatsoever. But the home firewall market is exploding here in the States, at least, because you can get things like Untangle for really, really low cost. And you can, like Craig was saying, you can throw it on a spare PC with a second network adapter if you want to.
Yeah.
Craig was mentioning having it on a virtual machine and a stack and things like that too. And I think a big part of like you were saying, Danny, a big part of still having hardware everywhere is, the IT world has been very famously and sadly reticent to change.
Yeah.
Historically. A lot of us still just like to have a box that we can look at and see, and it's tangible and it's real. To me, the logical part of that is if something does happen, worst case scenario, it's a lot easier to yank the cables out of that thing than it is a VM. You know what I mean? So I think that's still part of it. That's part of that paranoia. You know, I need a piece of hardware I can see to know it's real.
Yeah.
Firewall as a service running in a public cloud is becoming a really interesting aspect. I think it still has limited uses because not a lot of companies have infrastructure in the public cloud yet.
Yeah.
Untangle is a pretty small business, you know, but we actually have our infrastructure in a private cloud with AWS. You know, like our intranet runs in the public cloud. So that's becoming more widely adopted as it becomes cheaper for small businesses.
Yes.
So I think public cloud will probably be a bigger thing than running Untangle on a VM in small businesses at some point. But right now, it's still a really popular thing to just, like Craig was saying, get one of those little boxes from us or Zedsphere and just slap it on the network. You mentioned something, Danny, about business owners kind of not knowing what they need. And I think one of the greatest things about selling Untangle is if you have a little box, you can get Untangle on a 14-day free trial. You can drop it on your client's network in bridge mode, and you can show them what they don't know for 2 full weeks. You know, it's a cliche. I say it all the time, though, but business owners don't know what they don't know until someone shows it to them.
Yeah,
right.
I agree completely.
And you can show them on day one who's chewing up the bandwidth. I can say, oh, look, it's Craig's iPhone. He's been on Netflix for 5 hours.
Yeah.
You know, and it's immediate like that. So the hardware aspect, this is not surprising to me, but Untangle is such a modular piece of software. We run it in so many different environments. I almost don't care. You know, just run it. As long as you have something like this on your network, I don't care how you do it. But this does not really surprise me all that much, to be honest.
No, and like from our point of view as well, we asked customers to actually join in with what are their most common challenges, and once again it's quite a few surprises that's come up. We've got about 6 or 7 examples which I'll go over, and then we can talk about Craig and Chad for a little bit. But there's quite a few little bits of information in there which are so common that I've spoken to over the past year to partners like with Zedsphere and with Al, as to why they're struggling and what they want to achieve. And it's not the will that's stopping them. It could be something quite small. That's what I found. It's normally a little bit of awareness. So to give you an idea of some of the challenges that have come to light in all of this, and like I said, I'll just reel through these and then we can chat at the end. So the first one that we got is complicated licensing and pricing, which is absolutely a given. Something needs to be simple in order to understand it. The more complex it gets, the more people are put off. So that's the first one. Managing legacy setups. So I think Craig, you're going to be important in this one. So when you, like I said, I'll get your answer from at the end of this, but when this is more to do with when you're when you're acquiring a new business, like, do you rip and replace everything and provide your services? Or is it a case of you look at everything, look at the contracts, and then work out what you can and can't deal with when you're onboarding a new customer? So that's that one. We've got that it's not intuitive and it's too difficult to set up, which once again, these are just software. Well, they should be like software ABCs. It needs to be simple, needs to be easy to understand, and it needs to be obviously well priced. Normally the top 3 of any type of software solution, not just firewalls, but anywhere. Too many individual logins. Heard that quite a few times. People struggling with different solutions because they need a login, and then once they get into that, they need another login, or they've got multiple different consoles for multiple different things. Very closely connected to the fact that a solution they're using at the moment is struggling because it's not centrally managed. And one of the most common I get is the fact that for small to medium businesses, they're finding it incredibly difficult to sign a customer up to a year's commitment or 3 years commitment or 5 years commitment. And obviously the likes of Untangle and different solutions out there, there are products out there which you can get a monthly rolling contract. So it's a lot easier to get a customer to commit to £30 a month instead of asking them for 350 quid up front. Just little bits and pieces like that. And the last one is the configuration is too complex. Now, obviously, I know that was a little bit of information for you two, Craig and Chad, and I'm not expecting you to write it down. So we can obviously help each other out with this one. But one of the ones that I was most surprised about was obviously the fact that when you're managing a legacy setup and you walk into a business who's just said, right, I want to do a deal with you, like, where do you start? What do you look at? Like, do you look at the internet, the connectivity, the firewall, and you think, you know what, Untangle or a next generation firewall is something that's needed? Or is it a case of you bite your tongue a little bit and you think about it a little bit more longer? And do you know what I mean?
I think it's an interesting question because it kind of depends also on what the client is and who the client is and what the contract and the budget is. So, if it's something that we're desperate to win and they've got some weird firewall in there and, that's part and parcel of what we need to support, hey, if it's worth the money, we're going to find a way to support that. But typically, the way the process works for us is we would, as part of the onboarding process and part of that kind of quote and discovery process, we go out, we'll have a look at what they've got. The thing with selling firewall, from my point of view, is no one cares about the actual firewall, as in it's a box. As you said, what's it deployed on? No one cares. Honestly, we're the people that care. No one else cares about that bit. What they really care about is the fact that, as Chad alluded to, we can turn around and we can say, look, what sort of problems are you having here? So typical issues, business owners really always like to know what the staff are doing, what's going on. So as much as I don't advocate spying on people, with Untangle, you have fantastic reporting and ways to drill down into usage. Untangle is very, very powerful at the way it kind of ties into Active Directory and Azure AD, which is the kind of, that's the technology that, again, 95% of the MSPs are supporting, unless you're a Mac only shop. So, we can, with Untangle straight away, I can turn around to, the person that I'm proposing to, and I can say, look, these people over here, they need social media. Let's build a policy. We can lock them so that they can get social at these times, and other people are locked out. And you can build these fantastically kind of what sounds like a really complicated solution. It's so straightforward. So it kind of touches on the point that's on screen at the moment. Actually, with configuration, it's complex. The reason we kind of fell towards Untangle, early days I was playing around with different stacks, and as I said, we're kind of a generalist shop. We've got general skills across lots of things. So we found that Untangle was a product that we could set up, and any of our technicians can log in, even the first level support guys, they can jump on there, they can understand what's going on. It makes sense. You don't have to be some super duper CCNA networking expert to understand how to set network interfaces up on there, how to build VLANs. There's wizards to walk you through things. Setting up the bandwidth control is really easy. So straight out of the box, almost, you can kind of turn it on, plug in the default stuff, and you've got a kind of a protected network. And then from there, you can just build it up and really, layer on these really great features. In terms of the kind of the methodology, I'd really quickly just talk through how we kind of deal with it, and it covers off some of these other points, I think. So with the annual cost side of things, again, we've never sold Untangle on a long subscription. We've always put it on a monthly basis. Partly in the early days, it was because we didn't know the product, and I'll be brutally honest, we didn't want to commit to something and think if we commit to a year or 3 years with this and we have to pull it out, then we're tied. But actually,
thank you.
But what we
thank
found
you
now
for
is,
making sure, Craig.
Absolutely. As a business owner, you have to kind of protect your interests, and so that's how we started with it. And actually, when we did that, actually it perfectly fits the MSP model, because actually we put it in there. It's sticky. We've never had anybody cancel it, so we've just got this fantastic rolling monthly service that we're delivering. It's a really easy way to get it through the door.
It's exactly what we feel as well. When because obviously we're a distributor for the IT service industry. It's crazy the amount of people who want everything on a monthly cost, and I don't just mean IT service providers. I mean end users. They're actually now expecting every single service that they can get their hands on as a monthly subscription, because it's much easier, I find, like I said before, to get them to commit to a monthly model with a lower commitment fee than it is to ask for 1, 3, 5 years of upfront. The good thing is with next generation firewalls, and especially with Untangle, is the fact that you can give them that choice, because there are still customers out there, especially in the education sector, who expect 3 years contracts as a standard. And it's just purely because it's what they've been doing for the last 20 years. So it's completely ingrained in the way they do business. So we've never had a school at all with any of our partners take anything other than a 3-year contract. So there is still industries out there who do things differently. But what we're seeing is the MSP market is completely changed, so that all these upfront costs, like antivirus 10 years ago, that was something that you could only buy annually. Now it's completely changed, so that people expect it to be on a monthly sliding scale, that you can go up and pay one price and it comes down and pay the next price the following month. Now, one thing with you, Chad, that I just wanted to pick up on is the fact that obviously you've had a lot of conversations with people when it comes to Untangle and different firewall solutions. You know the other players out there. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different world in the States because it's a lot more competitive than it is here in the UK.
Sure.
But like, I'm sure you've heard this one many times before, where the solutions they're using are just far too complex and complicated because of the way they're deployed and the way they're managed.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I am not a Linux guru.
Right.
Okay, I don't work in command line because I don't have to. Untangle doesn't make you do that kind of stuff, you know. And if you want a little peek behind the curtain, that's actually why Untangle exists specifically.
Yeah.
Our founder, 17 years ago, our founder came out of school. He was a CCNA, just like everyone was, and worked in Cisco's all day. And it was driving him crazy. And he decided it could be done graphically. So he and his roommates started coding Untangle. That's why it exists, because this can be easy. You know, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Like Craig said, setting up a VLAN is not a hard thing to do. You know, we have a button for that. You know, that's how it is. You know, and like you said, you know, I think one of the things that's driving the next gen firewall market here in the States is, like you were saying, Danny, user expectations. Right? People, especially here in the States, Americans want it all. They want it tomorrow. You know, they want it to work perfectly. Want to pay for it monthly, and they want to never have to touch it again, you know. And that's a big part of why Untangle is becoming popular in the home market here. But I think that's also why we're kind of exploding, even global. You know, we're a pretty international product. You know, we're a small San Jose, California company, but I mean, we have clients all around the world. You know, there's 40-something thousand Untangles installed worldwide. If it were hard to configure, that wouldn't be true. You know, because these are the smallest businesses ever. They don't have an IT team, you know. You mentioned me talking to a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of business owners directly. You know, they don't always have someone like Craig. I do online demos for you know, dentists who need a firewall in their office because they've never had one, which is suddenly they realize they're out of compliance on 3 different lists, and so now they're scared. Right, here comes the fear again. But as soon as they see Untangle on my screen, as soon as we do a little test drive, they get a little relaxed. You know, they're always picturing what you're talking about, Danny, those horrible interfaces. They're picturing something they've seen on Mr. Robot. You know, they're picturing someone hacking on command line, and that's not what we do. You know, it's not necessary. So everything's graphical. Craig mentioned there's a lot of different setup wizards that you run through. Even if you get Untangle branded hardware, you have to run through our setup wizard. You know, it's all graphical. Are we your router? Or are we bridged to a router? You got to tell us that, right? So either way, we're a great content filter, but it's all really simple. You know, I've been using Untangle at home for 5 years, and guess what? I'm still not a Linux guru because I haven't had to become one. So it's a really simple thing. With all the reporting it can show you, like Craig said, it's instantaneous news about your network. You know, so I love having it at home just because, like I said, it's 2020 and things are crazy. But setting it up, this is not an exaggeration. I got a new Z6 from Untangle last summer. It's a 1U rack mount. It's $1,200 US. I do not need that. I have about 6 devices to filter. They honestly kind of called my bluff and gave me a rack-mounted server. I don't have a server rack in my apartment, in my flat, but
yeah,
whatever. From the time I timed this with my phone, from the time I unboxed that server and had it online filtering this computer and my PlayStation and my Roku, it was 12 minutes.
wow, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
So
that's not a joke. Yeah, I mean, I bridged it to my router because it's a home network, but just it passes DHCP to the Untangle. It's just up.
yeah,
You know, so it can be a really, really, really simple thing. Firewalls don't have to be intimidating and scary. You know, it just, people are very used to what they see, you know, on
yeah.
TV, and on, people are used to using Cisco interfaces and things like that. And those all, to be perfectly honest, all those devices have very similar feels,
Yeah.
interfaces to
And
me, experiences.
yeah,
We're a lot different, I guess.
yeah, definitely. And Craig, obviously, like, I want you to have your moment, because I know there's a lot of people out there who are really interested to find out how you do it, what objections that were coming up against, how you overcame them, what sort of trends and what sort of customers that you were looking to sell into, and where you've obviously found your wins, but more also as well. Sorry, I don't know if that's good English or bad. I apologize. But like, if you've had any failures, is there any advice that you can give to people, to other MSPs in the same situation of yourself, where it's potentially one that you should just be a little bit aware of? I just want to understand from an MSP's point of view, like, what's your day-to-day like when it comes to firewall management, expectations of your customers, how you approach things? So yeah, if you don't mind just helping out with that, that'd be brilliant.
I will do my best. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I think actually starting with failures is quite a good place to start, because then it teaches people what to do right. I would say in the early days of trying to sell Untangle and firewall solutions, the biggest mistake we probably made was trying to sell a firewall, because, as I say, it's one of those things that, you know, when we're talking to anybody, business owners, IT directors, whoever, it's all about problem solving. And I think, you know, most people who understand sales, even if we're not natural salespeople, we gradually understand that's how we need to sell something. So, you know, positioning this actually as a tool to solve a lot of business problems is really the place to start. I think one of the things that we found really, really good with Untangle, in terms of once we've kind of started talking about the sale and how it works, the beautiful thing with Untangle has been that once you've kind of signed up to a plan and you're paying your money, this is from our perspective, and for the customer, the product develops and features are added. And unlike quite a few other vendors, there's you know, this might change in the future, I don't know, but historically there hasn't been kind of a change in pricing for that. So one of the things that's come out has been, I think there's a new beta on the way, version 15 of the firewall, and that's actually bringing in some threat control functionality, and that's something that we're seeing as a huge opportunity for us as with our customers. So in a nutshell, from what I understand, I haven't tried this yet, but reading up on it, the threat control is going to kind of look at IP addresses that are coming into the network and classify whether they're good or bad based on, you know, a reputation.
Yeah, it's an IP reputation app, finally. Yes.
Absolutely, and it looks fantastic.
Finally, I said it, yes.
One of the things that we're seeing massively with clients at the moment, we saw this actually yesterday, we had one of our techs said actually we were getting 6 or 7 clients at the same time that were starting to get brute force attacks from Russian IP addresses, and these attacks were just literally trying, I don't know, there were certain clients where we had open services to the web, but they, you know, they needed to have them. So we've got clients where they've got some VPN services open, or they've got you know, remote web access, that kind of thing, with a typical small business server. And you know, these are, most of these clients don't have an Untangle yet, but this is a great opportunity we're going to talk to them about. The ones that did, we've started blocking IPs, but this kind of service just means, you know, this is something that we can say, look, once this is in place, this is going to, without any kind of user interaction, this is going to cut down a lot of that noise, a lot of that stuff that's coming through, because it's reputational based. So these are all kind of things where we look at opportunities as how we can kind of solution sell Untangle. We don't really necessarily call it Untangle. For some clients we will, some clients will walk through and we'll give them a demo, and we do exactly what Chad said about, you know, we actually have what we call a demo Untangle box here. In fact, we need to update it for an appliance, but we've still got one of the servers that we use. And for anybody that's, for those few clients, you know, you always get 1 or 2 that really want to see the nuts and bolts. You know, most of them, honestly, most of them don't care. But for the ones that want to see it and that are kind of detail orientated, as Chad said, we go down, we drop it in, we put it in bridge mode. It literally takes 5 or 10 minutes to set up. We have, you know, we can turn it on straight away, start showing them stuff, and there's a huge amount of power in Untangle in terms of the usability and the reporting. But I mean, in terms of actually how we kind of position it, I think it's, for a lot of clients, if we're taking on somebody brand new, we'll look at what they're doing, we'll look at what they've got, we'll look at the challenges, and we'll say, look, we'll position Untangle if it's the solution, which say for most people it is, it works perfectly. So we'll look at, even things like VPN access. Untangle's got some fantastic built-in open VPN technology. So where you've got clients that are still using like legacy, PPTP or SSTP stuff that they're running on a server, put Untangle at the gateway, run it straight off the back of the open VPN stack. One of the things that used to be, I don't know whether people still buy a lot of the individual licensing, but to me, it always looked like the best option was to buy the complete NG package. So we've always done that. We've always kind of said, look, have it as a complete package. It's very straightforward. For their monthly fee, they're getting great amount of functionality. But in terms of the stuff that people care about, what I've certainly from my experience, we found that with clients, the pain points that we can kind of get a really easy foot in the door with Untangle is the general security side of things, like Chad alluded to. Bandwidth control in Untangle is fabulously powerful. So you can build fantastic bandwidth rules to control things. One of the biggest issues that we find is that, for most kind of SME businesses where they've maybe got, 10, 15 people, everybody's moving to VoIP. Most of the time, they haven't segmented that out to a different network. So essentially, it's all on the flat network. It's all running on the same internet service. There's no quality of service normally. Sometimes there is, but most of the time there isn't. So straight away, we can put Untangle in. We can start to put restrictions in, and again, turn it on out of the box and tell it the bandwidth of the connection. It will automatically kind of deprioritize Windows updates. It will deprioritize stuff that's sitting there gobbling bandwidth, and it will prioritize VoIP. So straight away, you can solve a call quality issue with VoIP by putting Untangle in. So that's always a really easy win. Branch office connectivity is a really easy positioning point as well when you've got multiple branch offices. And again, Untangle have got some fantastic stuff that's come out with SD-WAN to help with that. Again, kind of outside the scope of what we're talking about here, but it's they've got solutions that work really well for that.
And quickly as well, just because I know Chad mentioned it before, but Craig, quickly, do you feel like when you are talking to a customer about firewalls, do you feel like they've now got an awareness of what you're talking about? Because I know obviously quite a few years ago, like I mentioned earlier, like firewall, it wasn't heard of. It's just something that came with a router. Like, do you feel now when you're speaking to customers that they kind like?
I think they have a basic understanding as to what a firewall is in terms of that it has some control over what happens on the internet. And that's probably as deep as most people get it. They understand it blocks things or it stops things, and again, some of them will probably understand they've got something like that with a router. If they've got a basic business grade router, it's going to have some kind of control. But again, our positioning on it really is that we say, look, once we put this in place and we take you over, we're going to manage this. So we're going to solve a lot of security headaches for you in terms of the fact that we're going to make sure that you're not going to be getting hacked. We're going to make sure that, for example, when we deploy, we'll turn on some of the application control rules. So we'll look at and say, look, straight off the bat, we know, we'll have a chat. We'll say, look, as a business, no one in your business is really going to use Tor, are they? And they'll say, no, I don't think so. So right, let's put some application control rules in. If anybody starts to use Tor, it gets blocked. If anybody's using BitTorrent, it gets blocked. So we can straight away position the fact that the minute they've kind of put that in place and we're managing it, we're going to make them much more secure. And we've got a real life example. Actually, we had a client where they actually got hit with a real nasty bit of zero-day malware, and it was so zero-day that it got through the AV we had in place. It got through DNS filtering, all the bits and pieces. It got through Untangle's virus checker, and it got through our on-site virus checker. It was literally 0 day, nothing. We took the file, we put it up on Virus Total when we found it, and nothing new about it. But what Untangle did do is, because we had blocks in place for command and control, and we had blocks in place for Tor and those kind of things, the actual malware couldn't do its encryption part because it was trying to get out to all these IPs and it was just getting blocked. We saw the application controllers getting flooded with all these blocks of things. So as much as it got into the network, we locked it all down. We could see what was happening. Untangle let us trace down what was happening, and definitely without it, we would have been an absolute world of pain. It would have been terrible. So I think all these things is one of the things that we talk about with clients as well, is that nothing is ever going to stop everything. We're never going to find one magic bullet solution that stops every single piece of everything, because there's always going to be something brand new.
It's a constant battle as well. I remember obviously, like my dad, when I was younger, he always used to tell me, it doesn't matter when you buy a TV, the minute you buy it, the next day there's going to be another technology out to replace it. And it's just technology's moving so quickly. It is unbelievable. Now, obviously, thank you very much, Craig, for your input. Now, Chad, I want to give you a little bit of your limelight, and I'm going to allow you to share your screen because I do know there's people who just want a bit of a top level skim about what a next generation firewall can offer, what are the features that people are wanting to see, what are the selling points where they can obviously go on to their end users and say, look, it's going to do this, this, and this. And also for the people who are also already regular with something like Untangle, what's potentially new. Okay, because I know there's always work that's obviously being done. So I'm just going to give you the control, so it won't be a second. Okay, so you should now have the control.
Look at that pic. Wow, should I grow my hair back out? Look at that. Okay, I'm taking your screen, Danny. I'm sharing mine. You guys should see my command center.
Yep, so that's absolutely everything that.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, cheers, Danny. I'll take off here. What we're looking at is command center. Danny had a slide that was talking about centralized management. And so one of the first things I wanted to talk about was that Untangle does this for everyone for free. A lot of centralized management requires additional hardware. You have to offload that kind of thing. You know, you'll find that Untangle doesn't require any offloading. We do a lot of really interesting things with this software. So I'll go over this pretty fast. If anybody is curious, you can go to the Untangle channel on YouTube. There is a full-blown 40-minute demo on Command Center in our webinars. So feel free to go play around. But anyone who signs up on untangle.com has access to centralized management, and you get an aggregated dashboard that shows all these cool domains and applications being used and top host names. This is a really quick piece of visibility. Like Craig was saying, business owners want to know who's doing what and how they're doing it. And I can show that to them without even logging into the server. If you want specific information, you just log into a specific appliance here. I think one of the biggest selling points on Untangle is Command Center right now. There are not a lot of companies our size, Zedsphere size, even providing centralized management for the smallest MSPs on earth. You know, we have MSPs that are one person. They have 3 clients. So they get access to all this. This is how we remotely access Untangles. This is how we get alerts when the power goes out at the office. Command Center can tell you that this Untangle didn't call home. So I think Command Center is been kind of a game changer for us. It's only about 1.5 years old. It's doing some really interesting things. Obviously, you can remote into your devices here. One thing I wanted to mention here is this goes through an SSL proxy server. It's a very secure login. The days of leaving SSH open on your firewall are over because that's insane. The days of leaving HTTPS open on your WAN IP are over because that's insane. You have giant gaping open garage doors on your firewall. So we don't do that anymore. Those come turned off, and now you just click remote access right here, and it takes you into your Untangle. Oh, I did it. Well, that might take me into one of our beta versions. So perfect segue to my next slide real quick. I was going to talk about some new features. Command Center is doing some very cool stuff. I want you guys to sign up for untangle.com, obviously, and play around with it, but there is a big, long, nice webinar on our YouTube. And that took about 10 seconds. Now I'm remoted into this VMware server, which is running our beta version of version 15, which has our new threat prevention app. I actually wanted to show everyone this because it is coming out here in a couple of weeks. It's actually a really cool system. I use the term threatmometer for this. I think they're going to coin that. I don't really know yet. But you can just say, I'm not really all that trusting. I want all traffic blocked. You can just say, I want just some suspicious high-risk IPs blocked. So this is a really new avenue for us in content filtering. I don't want to hang out in this box too much. We'll go to my demo server, but that's how fast the remote access is from Command Center. All your devices get registered here and tagged. It's a really, really big selling point I found for MSPs especially. But even home users, even someone like me, I only have one Untangle server, right? But this is still a really valuable tool for me because I'm able to get alerts when the box is off. You know, it watches for a call home get missed. I can set up different policies here from the cloud. Craig mentioned policies on the server. This is a little bit different animal. We're pushing all the application settings from one device to another device. And we can do that for multiple devices. We call it zero-touch provisioning. So it's a really, really, really cool tool. I think Untangle as a whole, the selling point is having a next-gen firewall, right? I don't want to discount the term firewall, but I try not to use it a whole lot with Untangle anymore because a next-gen firewall versus a firewall is a very complicated conversation. And Untangle versus a small Cisco ASA, for example, that's apples versus bananas now. You know, they don't do any of this layer 7 identifying. So some of the key features are just basically us being what's called a unified threat management device, a next-gen firewall, and having layer 7 visibility. Craig mentioned he likes the complete package of our software. I agree fully with that, because if you need to, for example, filter the internet, well, we just cracked 90% HTTPS encryption here in the States. Globally, it's averaging 70%. The days of filtering HTTP only are over. So there's a lot of things going on, obviously, on this screen. We'll talk about them here in just a second. But if you need to just, for example, filter Office 365, I immediately think of 3 of these apps. So if you were to do that a la carte, it would get more expensive than the complete package. And Danny and Craig would tell you, no, just get the complete package. Why? So Untangle itself is actually Linux Debian OS. So this is a standalone server. It runs on, like we said, virtual cloud, your hardware, our hardware, but it needs a standalone machine regardless. It'll overwrite anything you put it on and install Linux. I think some of the main selling points are obviously right here on my screen. This is our dashboard. It is what I call an adult dose of information. It's a lot, but you can make this anything you want it to be. You can customize the dashboard here by turning these widgets off and adding new ones. Craig made a good point that a lot of businesses use Active Directory. Maybe we want to tie into your Active Directory so we can see usernames. That's a big part of different compliance standards here in the state. Public schools in the states here have to have usernames in their reports one way or another. They can come from Google, Microsoft, Radius, Active Directory, wherever. The number one thing I like about the dashboard is how easy it is to find information. So we can add conditions. The dashboard goes up to 24 hours ago, but this is how I do it. You can see right here, 2.59 is the person chewing up my bandwidth over the last hour. I'm going to flip a coin and say they're either on Google or Amazon on a mobile device. It's one of those. Maybe Google Store. So what you do is you click right here and you add that, and boom, it's going to change everything to show me 2.59's traffic. So Google Play, Craigslist, Facebook, CNN. This is not work related. I'm sorry. It's not. So that's a real quick piece of information, right? Whoever's at this device. And if I had usernames, it would just be, you know, D Boyle. I could say, oh, D Boyle's on this IP and he's been on Hulu all morning. So if I need a deeper dive, I click right there and I come into the reports. So Untangle's reporting is as robust as you'll find anywhere in our industry. By default, we have about 400 reports with our complete package. As I said, it can be overwhelming, but we also offer custom templates for a small business owner. You can download a template from us and just show them daily, weekly, or monthly. This is what's happening on your network. These people are chewing up your bandwidth, and this is how they're doing it. So this is our complete package. I'm obviously not going to dive into every app here. If you guys want to do that, I'll do a demo with you, you know, let Danny know, we'll set something up, let Craig know, he can do one for you. We also have a lot of videos on our YouTube, as I said. What I wanted to mention real quick is that, excuse me, there are probably a few people on this webinar who have never heard of Untangle. I understand that. We are getting good word of mouth. We win a lot of awards, but I think you've probably heard of a lot of our partners. There's a lot of big intelligence behind Untangle that powers these apps. We actually run Bitdefender at the gateway. We run the WebRoot Bright Cloud database for our content filter. We run the Procera NavL library for application awareness. So there's a lot going on like that, even with our open source apps, that we actually partner up with people and piggyback on their databases. We leverage a lot of really, really big cloud databases for zero-day telemetry data. Bitdefender has a cloud scan that we do. We also have our own cloud infrastructure called Scout IQ that does zero-day telemetry data. Yeah, Danny, have we gotten any questions or anything like that in chat that we should answer? Or?
I was just going to say, so Abe from Alchemy has said that most of his clients use Office 365. Does Untangle block spam, phishing, and viruses for those users?
Right. So you'll see our spam and phish blockers here on the screen, but those actually only scan SMTP. So if you don't have a mail server or you're not using a hosted mail server, we don't need those installed. So for Office 365, nobody can scan that email except for Microsoft. But what we can do is in our content filter, we'll obviously block things like malware and phishing redirects. excuse me, this is kind of another cliche, but I say it in every webinar I host for Untangle. There is no software on earth that can stop a grown-up from clicking something they want to click. You know, it would be $1 billion a week if it existed. So Untangle is an inline box in front of your local network. We do our best to take those users out of the equation. I personally feel, as a security person, that user education is the true tip of the spear for any network's security hygiene. If you're not providing user education to your employees, you're doing them a disservice, right? Not everyone knows the things we're talking about. Untangle has a team of accountants who don't know network security. You know, we do phishing training quarterly. And when you click the link, you get called out in public chat because you work at Untangle. You need to know some stuff. But you know, see, Craig mentioned Tor earlier, you know, proxies and anonymizers and things like that. Even web proxies are a big deal now too for someone. You might have someone who thinks they're entitled to not be filtered at work, right? They might go to a site like stealthy.co all day at work, and that proxies them around their Untangle filter. And so now they're able to download spyware and malware and get to spam URLs because we're not blocking that anymore. So if we check this box here, they can't even do that. If they try to go to something like Stealthy, this is a very popular web proxy. I block these here at home. So if I try to go to the proxy, you see my corporate logo. You can't go there, you know? So if you have my password, you can unblock this site for 5 minutes. That's an option in web filter. That's because I had that box checked right there. And this is without decryption. I don't have a root certificate on this iMac I'm using. I use SNI hostname rules. So something like Office 365 could be accessed from someone's phone, someone's tablet. You know, you never know. They may or may not have a root certificate. I always tell people to separate wireless traffic from local traffic on Untangle. You need different policies because it's not practical to push a root cert to someone's phone. So we do this. That lets us still scan for those URLs. But what we lack is the ability to scan a download from Office 365. You have to decrypt traffic to that site for us to see that. But we can see it because your accountant will download an infected spreadsheet at some point. They will. They click on every spreadsheet anyone sends them. You know? So let us scan those. That's to me, honestly, Danny, that's my #1 use case for decrypting traffic right now is antivirus. We can still block Pornhub without decrypting it, for example. But Office 365, if they're downloading attachments, you know, that kind of stuff, we can block redirects without decrypting that stuff. But the attachments we need to decrypt to scan.
Yeah, no problem at all. No, it's fascinating, mate. It really is. And thanks very much for obviously just showing around for 10 minutes. And I know there's obviously a lot of people on the webinar. So just so you know, guys, this is something that if you wanted a deep dive into a lot more depth, then me, myself, and Chad are absolutely happy to accommodate that and to help you out. And Chad, if you could just give me back the power, the power. Sorry, that was oh, that was so bad. You can tell I've not had my afternoon coffee yet. But this.
Hey Danny, I just realized I've been drinking decaf all morning, so I'm worse off than you are. So
that's true. Yeah, but this is just for everybody, obviously, who isn't attending. One of the most common things that we get asked about is an NFR for Untangle to actually try it out for real. So one thing that we love to have the opportunity on is for you guys to actually join in, use the product, see exactly how the likes of Craig from One Fix IT has seen so much success over such a small time. And obviously from our point of view, because of the fact that we've been asked this question time and time again about firewalls in general last year, we know that it's something that's here to stick, and it's not just obviously something that's just going to pass and fly by the wind. So the details from myself are here, and like I said, you can pick yourself up an NFR for Untangle to use on your home account, for your business address, and you've got £199 a year, unlimited devices, and literally me and Chad would highly recommend to try and break it. Do what you want. That's what it's there for.
Danny, I was going to mention that, the site I was on is demo.untangle.com if anyone wants to go take a test drive.
And that's it. And guys, reach out to me if you want a demo and a trial and some pricing, because the biggest trend is we're seeing a huge uprise in people selling this onto others. So if you would like to be a partner, please obviously reach out. Just before we finish, we have got one last question, which I think is going to be for you, Chad.
I just saw that.
Yeah,
we are in the process of enabling full IPv6 functionality. It's been requested. It's been approved as a feature. All that we can route IPv6 right now. We don't do IPv6 if we're your DHCP server.
Okay.
It's
Thank
coming.
you.
Yes.
Yeah. So absolutely fine. I will get. I'm going to follow up with obviously everybody who was involved. Thank you so much for filling out the surveys. We've had 61 completion, and over the 2 webinars, we have had about 95 different participants who's going to be involved. So I'm going to follow it up with you all. Craig, I know you've been quiet for about 15 minutes. I don't know if you've already escaped.
No, I'm still here.
But thank you so much for attending, and obviously it's so nice to hear the advice that you've got for other people, and more importantly your experience about firewalls and how you've seen quite a lot of success with them in quite a short amount of time. And
sorry Danny, one thing I was going to say to everybody is if anybody's got particular questions or they need a bit of pre-sales help, I'm absolutely happy to help them out as well, because I am a sort of a bit of an evangelist for the products that we use, so I do love Untangle. So hook up with me on LinkedIn, just search my name, you'll find me. Link up, send me a question, I'll happily help. If it's anything commercial, I'll chuck you back at Danny, but if it's anything that's kind of within my remit that I can help with, I'm happy to help anybody that's been on the webinar. So.
Yeah, no, honestly, thank you so much, Craig, for that. It's been it's been so helpful. So hopefully you can see there that my details are on. I don't know, Chad, Craig, can you see that?
You've not shared your screen, Danny. I just see you at the moment. I can anyway.
Oh, there we go. I've made a bit of a boo-boo.
Yeah.
So here you go, guys. It was going so well as well. I nearly got to the hour
I didn't want to tell you
without making any mistakes, and it has to be the last hour, last minute. But yeah, here you go, guys. You've got the NFR information. You've got unlimited devices for your business, $199 per year. And like I said, every single partner that we've got with Untangle goes down this route because they love to have the opportunity to test it, try and break it, and then they can then pass that on knowledge onto their MSP, for their end users. And my information, I know the majority of people who's going to be involved in this webinar already talk to me on a regular basis. So please reach out, dboyle@zedsphere.com. I just like ringing people, so speak to me. It's so much better. You get so much more clarity out of them over a such shorter amount of time. But apart from that, guys, just to recap, let me go all the way to the top. I've been Danny. I'm the sales manager here at Zedsphere. We're the cloud distributor for IT services. Can't speak. IT service providers. Craig, managing director at OneFix Limited. Chad, security specialist at Untangle. Thank you very much, guys, and thank you for attending. Take care and sleep well. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Danny.
Cheers.
Thanks all. Bye.